Welcome to r/entitled people, where we share stories from your lives about people who think the rules don't apply to them, and they should get what they want. Thank you, friends, for subscribing to the channel, and for so many likes. And today we have 3 great stories, so subscribe, hit the like button, and let's begin. The first story: entitled mother was fired and her son suspended, all because of an eraser. The second story: rude customer calls waiter a moron over $2. Waiter tells manager off and blacks out name on schedule and walked away. The third story: my father sued my CEO. The first story is: you played with him, so he kept it. M equals me. EM equals student's mom, who is teacher. S equals student. So back in middle school, in high school now, it was 7th period in Spanish class, and me and my friend S were joking but arguing about who can throw and catch better. I pull out one of the square pink erasers and tell him catch, so I threw it to him and he caught it. We do this for a bit, and at one point while I wait for him to throw it back, he says I don't know where it is. I specifically remember me throwing it to him. I get up out of my desk to look for it near his. It's not anywhere in sight. I tell him to show his pockets and hands. Nothing. I ask him to check his book bag because it was open. He said no, so I, without laying my hands on his book bag, peek inside and it's not there. I turn around and the girl behind him threw my eraser straight at my face. At first I didn't care. It didn't really hurt and it's not like it's not normal there. But S is laughing and I knew he did that on purpose. Then they throw it in my direction, and I'm sitting next to a wall with his friend who is also my friend, except for when he thinks I'm kind of annoying. So they miss me and it goes near my friend's side. I get up and check the floor. Nowhere. S comes to me, help look for it. When I turn around, I see my friend giving S my eraser. I ask S to give it back and he says he doesn't have it. This was the point I wanted to stop playing that game. It's almost time to leave, just give it back. Then when I turn to my friend and ask him to tell him to stop, I get thrown the eraser again. It didn't hurt, but he didn't have to throw it. I go to pick it up only to find it's a different eraser. The girl behind S and him are pretending to hide the eraser. I tell S to give it back and he says he doesn't have it again. This peeved me off. Just give it back. I know you have it. That was my one eraser I kept all year. I could get a new one, but I'm not going to lose an eraser that I know isn't lost and easily retrievable. Anyways, S and the girl again pretend to hide it. I know that the girl had it before, and he wouldn't have it this time. She has to have it again, right? Of course she did. As soon as I start packing up about 10 minutes before leaving, I'm greeted with my trusty dusty eraser. Ah, how nice. It gave me a kiss right on the cheek. It left a mark. I playfully but also in anger throw it back to the girl and miss, and I couldn't see it land, but I was almost 100% sure it was on the floor. I go looking for it and it's gone. Of course. The way I saw it as I threw it had me sure it landed right where I was, and I looked for a couple minutes around there and it's not there. M, you know, I might have it, said S. I go to him demanding to give it back. No. I start trying to look around him and his hands for my eraser. I don't see it, but he won't show me his pockets or book bag. Just give it back. No, I have it, so I get to keep it. This went too far. I see his phone in his hands. This is where EM comes up. I, without any force, start holding his phone while in his hands and tell him so if I get this I can keep it, and he pulls it away from me. Stop, you're gonna break my phone. That was so much exaggeration. I literally grabbed it and didn't even pull it. EM comes up. What's going on? Without me opening my mouth, S immediately says, he tried to break my phone. EM turned to me and just stared at me with the most mad face you can imagine. Did you just try to break my son's phone? No, he's keeping my eraser away and he won't give it back. I say. EM turns her face from the angriest face to if she just saw a horse dancing. So you think that because he has your eraser you can just break his phone? S responds with, I don't have it, I swear. And he thinks that even if I did have it, he can break my phone to make up for it. In my head, I'm so frustrated. I'm thinking, now you admit it? You wait until I have to end it with showing you how it would feel if something you wanted is out of hands? Then you exaggerated how I tried to break your phone when I simply placed 2 fingers on it? I wanted to swear all over the place. I tried to explain everything to EM. He's lying. I never had it and he tried to break my phone, S exclaimed. EM sternly responded with, my son never lies and he's responsible. I know you're lying and he would never do that. I ask S to prove he doesn't have it. He shows his pockets. His hands are empty in his book bag. What about your back pockets? He places his hands inside and comes out with an eraser. What? You put it there so you can tell on me. Everyone in there witnessing this knows how stupid that sentence was, except for my/his friend, the girl in EM. Are you serious? So you tried to break his phone and tell on him anyway? I'm gonna have to call the counselor. This is absolute bull. During the wait for our buses, I explained how I went too far and I had to stop it myself. You were going to break my phone. Did I mention everyone else at the bus area knew me as the annoying kid who gets in a fight with everyone? So he told everyone there and of course they believed him. I cannot believe this kid. The next day, meeting the counselor, we explained what happened, but S explained completely different. He said that I gave the girl my eraser and asked her if she had it, and she said yes. Then I tried to steal and break his phone. I explained everything as it is and called in another friend from the class. He saw everything. He explained the same thing I said. S claims that me and my friends staged what we said. So the counselor brings in the girl and me in one room and asks her what happened. It was what S said before meeting the counselor. Why would the girl lie about what happened if what S said is true? So S got suspended for a month and EM was fired. The girl was somewhat a witness but did lie to the counselor, so she got suspended for 10 days. Oh, and I never got my eraser back. Amazing, right? Anyways, I was happy they were caught. Sounds like you had quite an eventful experience in high school, and your story made me laugh out loud. I can imagine the chaos of playing with an eraser, and the way you described it is hilarious. It's funny how something as simple as an eraser can lead to such a crazy situation. And the part where the mom came in and sided with her son was just icing on the cake. I'm glad you could see the humor in that situation, even though it must have been very unpleasant at the time. Who would have thought that a simple game could turn into a heated argument with accusations of stealing an eraser, phone hacking, and at the end of it also getting fired and suspended? It definitely lifted my spirits. The second story is, my boss asked me to get his shoes shined, so I put my 2 weeks notice in and I quit. I worked for a small technology startup based out of New York City. I've always had a close relationship with the CEO of our company because I joined as the first employee back in early 2019 after graduating from college. We would work out of his apartment and eventually expanded our team to about 25 employees and moved into a nice co-working space. While we were going through our first round of funding, our company was looking for a lawyer, so I suggested that we hire my father who specializes in this type of work, putting together due diligence materials, organizing our cap table, speaking to investors. Anyways, after about 2 years of my father working for our company, we had racked up about $130,000 in legal fees. The CEO of my company told my father that he wasn't going to pay any of the legal fees because they were too expensive, and my father immediately brought this to my attention. I told my father that I didn't want to get involved in this, and it was a major conflict for me. None of it sat well with me, but at the end of the day, I supported my father's decision to sue my company. I never told my company that I was aware of any lawsuits, and played oblivious to the whole situation. That's when things started changing at work. One of our clients, who had been with us for about 60 days, told my company that our offerings did not fit their needs, and they decided to move away from us. We call this churn in my industry. Churn is inevitable when there is misalignment and expectations are not met in the first 90 days. The CEO of my company completely blamed me for the client churning even though it wasn't my fault. The product we offered just did not meet their needs, and there was nothing I could really do to salvage the deal. The CEO completely ignored me for 3 weeks. He wouldn't even look in my direction, and this really impacted my confidence. My goal became to please him and seek gratification from him in every corner I turned. Honestly, it was miserable and I was working for all the wrong reasons. I kept telling myself that this had nothing to do with the lawsuit, but I now believe that it had everything to do with it. Then a few weeks later, on the busiest day of my week, the CEO walks into the office, and in front of everyone he asked me to go get his shoes shined for a wedding that he had later that night. I was very embarrassed and everyone in the office could not believe that he asked me, his first and most loyal employee, to do this. I asked him if he was being serious, and he said that he needed it done in the next hour. Despite my frustrations and meetings that I had booked, I decided to go get his shoes shined for him. I had to reschedule 2 meetings and waited at the shoemaker while they shined his shoes. When I got back to the office, I put in my 2 weeks notice and nobody in the office except for the CEO was shocked. They had seen how he had treated me over the course of a few months and knew I was finished. This was only one of the bad things that he had done to me, and I'm feeling pretty lost right now with no source of income. Luckily, the lease on my apartment ended, and I was able to move back home with my family, so my expenses are pretty low at the moment. The CEO paid my father 75% of what was owed on the last day of my employment. I'm convinced that this was not a coincidence. I can share some more stories about this CEO that wouldn't be surprising after reading this. So you really shined in your role as an employee, but seriously, quitting over a shoe shining request? That's one way to polish off your time at a company. Maybe next time the CEO should just buy some new shoes instead. Regardless, it sounds like you made the right decision to move on from that toxic environment. Best of luck in your future endeavors. And the last story is, rudest customer I ever had got fired. So I have a lot of insane stories, but I think this is the craziest and rudest one. So I gave the table service and it was an 8-top, all separate checks. So all went well until the checks went out. I gave them each an individual book. Their bills were about $22 each. Each of them put a $100 bill in their checkbook. To do the math for you, that's $625 in change, haha. So remarkably, in 10 minutes, I was able to get all the change back to them, except one guy's checkbook. I was short $2 on the change I owed him. Mind you, this is during a rush. So I decided instead of parading around again for $2, I would let the man know I still owe him $2 on the check, and we'll get it as soon as possible, since it had been about 12 minutes since I took the checks. So I did that. The guy says no problem, I'll just take it out of your tip. I say thanks and turned away to keep working. Then before I could turn away, his friend across from him says, "Hey kid, why can't you give my friend his money?" I said, "Sir, I can, I just didn't want him waiting 10 more minutes for $2. He says to me, "You are a complete moron." Actually, he said something much nastier than that, but I can't say those words on here. Point is though, he did call me stupid was his point. So I said, "What?" Him. "You are a moron." "Okay," I said. "I think this is being taken out of proportion." Him. "Shut up, kid. Don't backpedal now. You already stepped on your own male private part." Can't say the word, but you get it. I said, "Whatever, dude." He said, "I'm telling your manager what happened." So then, my crazy manager then came up to me to yell at me for what happened, and I put my hand in her face and told her, "I don't want to hear it." She always yelled at me for dumb stuff. She says I'm sending you home for the day. So I walked to the schedule in the back and went up to the schedule. I then took a pen and blacked out my name off the schedule with my pen and said, "Look, now you don't have to fire me." Her husband, who was the chef, then came up to me and said, "Talk to my wife like that again, pal, see what happens." So I told him to step outside and we can duke it out. He walked away. I left. Yeah, so kinda went ape crazy at the end, but I didn't do anything wrong. I later found out that man was a friend of hers that said all that to me. Really messed up how they treated me. God, OP, that's one crazy story. I can't believe you had to deal with a table of customers who put $100 bills for $22 bills, and then called you names over $2. But hey, at least you got a dramatic exit from your job. Next time though, let's hope your customers leave more reasonable tips, and your manager is a bit less crazy. Keep those stories coming. Subscribe, hit the like button, and turn on notifications. Have a good day.